Remember that time Marvel was still releasing movies? So last year, after the release of Shazam and the Joker trailer, I made a video on how I love the new direction DC was taking with the movies. And I liked how that video turned out, so I decided today to make one for Marvel since they are pretty much bound to build from scratch again. Obviously, the MCU is in much better shape than the DCEU.
Oh, something is definitely bleeding.
And you could think, of course their future is bright, but it's important to keep in mind that after the massive success that was Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, the MCU has definitely reached its peak. With the end of the Infinity Saga, they need to reinvent themselves to keep the fans excited, give them a reason to come back for more despite the fact that Captain America, Black Widow, well, almost, and Iron Man are all gone and the big bad that is Thanos has been defeated. Doing the same thing again will definitely turn people off, and going in a complete different direction will probably have the same effect. While they still have Spider-Man, Black Panther, Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange, these characters still have a lot to prove. And that's the thing, Marvel understood that. The global pandemic has been a curse and a blessing at the same time for Marvel. While it has delayed production for most of their projects, it's also allowed them to take more time and pick the absolute best creators to tell these heroes' stories. Going back to the very first Iron Man film, it's easy to see and understand why the MCU took off. Jon Favreau had a complete understanding of not only the character of Iron Man, but also of the way the character works best in the story. He is incredible at implementing the conventional 3-act structure and making it look and feel like something fresh and different. The movies that followed did not always live up to that, but most definitely took inspiration from it. After the release of Black Widow, the MCU will need a fresh start, but this time will face the challenge of doing the cinematic universe concept while injecting some new ideas, because the concept of the shared universe itself won't be enough, because it's no longer fresh and exciting. Thor: The Dark World could afford to be as mediocre as it was, because what mattered to the audience was the next crossover. But it has been over 10 years of crossovers, and Marvel heroes have crossed paths so many times now that it's no longer impressive. That's why you see more and more criticism of the MCU online today. Criticism that no one cared about 5 years ago. That's a sign that people expect the biggest franchise of all time to step up and deliver not only in spectacle but in storytelling as well. And because the Lord Foggy is an absolute madman, he went and did just that. A few weeks back, it was announced that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness will be directed by Sam Raimi, the man behind the original Spider-Man trilogy.
Doctor Strange.
That's pretty good. But it's taken.
That followed the announcement that Taika Waititi was returning for another Thor movie, and just yesterday they announced that Nia Da Costa was taking over the Captain Marvel sequel. There is also the Eternals, but since we know next to nothing about it, I'm going to focus on the movies we have details on. The reason Sam Raimi in the MCU is a big deal is because Doctor Strange is going to be an important character for the MCU going forward, and it's important that I care about him. I was fine with Scott Derrickson. I didn't hate the first Doctor Strange, but my biggest problem is that I didn't really care about the character. I mentioned earlier how good Favreau was at taking the conventional hero's journey and 3-act structure and make it feel different. Doctor Strange is the perfect example of how difficult it actually is to do so, especially for characters like Tony Stark and Doctor Strange, problematic characters with redeemable qualities. Sam Raimi is the complete opposite of Scott Derrickson. He can do horror, he can do comedy, and he can do horror comedy, but most importantly, Sam Raimi knows how to build and develop his characters. Doctor Strange has never been in safer hands. On the other side, you have Taika Waititi, who, regardless of what you think of Thor Ragnarok, injected his energy to the character and pretty much saved him. Chris Hemsworth was ready to stop playing Thor before Taika Waititi came along, because the role was just simply too boring. And I can't blame him. I was bored to death watching Thor: The Dark World. Imagine actually being in the movie. Taika Waititi understood what Thor needed to get better as a character, and again, I'm 100% convinced Sam Raimi will do the same for Doctor Strange. Speaking of boring characters, Captain Marvel was such a mediocre movie that it's not even worth criticizing. Thor: The Dark World is bad, But Captain Marvel is not even the type of movie that gets you angry or disappointed. It's just lifeless to me. And the weird thing about movies like Captain Marvel or Ant-Man and the Wasp is that Marvel always gets blamed for how they turned out. I'm going to say that I do not believe for a second that the MCU would be anywhere near where they are right now if they didn't allow directors to do their thing. Sure, they always make sure the director's vision is in line with what they have in mind, and that's why some directors like Edgar Wright left. Sure, they don't let directors direct the action sequences, and that's probably why Black Panther has some weird ass fight scenes. But the truth is, they also allow the directors to express themselves. You look at a movie like Thor Ragnarok, only Taika Waititi could have made this movie. It matches his humor and style. If the Ant-Man movies are bland and boring, it's because Peyton Reed is a boring ass director. If Captain Marvel was a forgettable movie, it's because its directors and writers failed to make anything memorable. The good thing about hiring a young and talented director like Nia Da Costa is that she's everything but boring. If you have never seen her debut film Little Woods, you should definitely check it out. It's a beautiful story about family and moving on from the past. It's a movie that should have been boring by concept, but has so much life and energy and style. And she's also perfect for Captain Marvel because she's very good at subtlety, something Captain Marvel desperately needs.
How about a smile for me, huh?
You freaking freaks! When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
Another conversation these days is mostly around the upcoming Disney Plus series. But again, we haven't seen much of them, and most of them sound like stuff we've seen before. So they will be typical MCU shows. Like Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be in line with Captain America the Winter Soldier and Black Widow. And that's fine, but nothing really impressive in terms of concept. However, while the Loki TV series sounds pretty unique, I guess, there is a Marvel TV show that might raise the bar for the entire superhero genre, and that is WandaVision. WandaVision is said to be a crazy and completely deranged show with a lot of heart and soul. It looks like nothing out there, and it's the kind of concept Marvel should be seeking more of. It also brings me joy that Wanda will finally get the character development she desperately needs. Out of all the remaining MCU characters, I think she's got the biggest potential. And while a romance with Vision kind of came out of nowhere, the show will rectify that by diving deeper in Wanda's mind and explore her pain both before and after meeting the Avengers. Or at least I hope it does that. For most people, the focus is on Spider-Man or Black Panther or the MCU's X-Men and Fantastic Four. But if the rumors are true that their next big story will be Secret Invasion, then Captain Marvel has to work as a character. If they intend to introduce the multiverse through Doctor Strange 2, then Doctor Strange has to work as a character. The MCU seems to already have an idea of what they want to do with Spider-Man. And Black Panther is already in very good hands with Ryan Coogler. The MCU's challenge was always getting Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel right. And that's why they changed directors, because they know their first movies were fine, but they shouldn't be fine. They should be great if they want these characters to be as big as Cap and Iron Man were. And with Thor passing the torch to Natalie Portman's character and introducing Lady Thor under the direction of Taika Waititi, James Gunn returning for another Guardians of the Galaxy film, the Eternals having one of the best casts ever put together for a comic book film, Marvel introducing the first ever Asian superhero with Shang-Chi, TV shows like WandaVision exploring different concepts in the MCU while setting up Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and freaking Marshall Ali playing Blade, all that just tell me one thing: the MCU's future is brighter than ever. Thank you for watching.